Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be part 2 of my Viofo A129 Plus Duo review, and in this video I want to share some of the data I've gathered testing out this camera. So one of the first things I want to know about these devices when I get them is exactly how much electricity they consume and their current draw on my vehicle's electrical system. So I tested that out, and when my battery voltage was 12.28 volts, I measured the current draw from the camera, and with both units hooked up it draws 335 milliamps, and with the front unit only it draws 206 milliamps. Now, to put that into perspective, 335 milliamps times 24 hours is 8 amps. And my vehicle's battery is 850 cranking amps. So what that means is if I left this camera running for one day, one 24-hour full period, it would use less than 1% capacity of my car's battery. So I did some figuring, and I could probably leave this camera running for 3 to 7 days before my car would not start. Now, of course I don't recommend you leave your camera running for up to 7 days, but it's just nice to know that information. So the second electrical test I did is I wanted to know how long it would run on one of these single cell power banks. So this is just your standard run-of-the-mill power bank. This was $5 at Walmart, and that power bank is rated at 5 volts at 3350 milliamps. And so I hooked the dash camera up to it, and it ran for 2 hours and 57 minutes. So I would call that about 3 hours. So that should give you an idea of just how power efficient this device is. You can run it off a little power bank for 3 hours. And so to put that into perspective, if you had one of these big power banks, this one is a 30,000 milliamp, and these go for 20 bucks. And I did the math, and you could probably run it for 24 hours running it on this little power bank, but you probably don't want to do that, because you really got to be careful with these lithium-ion power banks. When they get hot, like when you leave them in a parked car, they can explode, which is the whole reason why they have these auxiliary battery packs. This one is by Celink Neo, and they're pricey. This one is $330. But the reason why they exist is because they have a different battery chemistry that can work in the extreme hot temperatures and extreme low temperatures. Okay, so a quick note on the recording file size. Like I said, with the 64 gig card, I'm getting about 7 hours of record time. And if you got a 128, that'll increase it to 14 hours, and a 256 will be 29 hours. And as far as the size of a 1 minute file, on the front it's running about 136 megabit, and the rear is 121 megabit. And I also did some testing with downloading files to my cell phone, and this was interesting. And keep in mind, I'm using a iPhone SE, the original one from 2016, not the new one. So what I did is I hooked up to the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and I downloaded a 1 minute file, and on the 2.4 it took 1 minute. And then I switched it over to the 5 gigahertz, which is supposed to be faster, and I was shocked and amazed that it took 6 full minutes to download that same file. 6 times as long when it should be shorter. So I think I may have discovered some type of bug or software issue, but I really don't think it's going to be a major problem because most people are using current model year cell phones. They're not using 5-year-old cell phones like me. So I think it might be an issue with my phone being so old. And the second issue I found is that once I downloaded the video, this here is the video that I downloaded. You can see that it's 1 minute, and the video will not play on my cell phone. I would just get the spinning wheel. And when I clicked this edit button to try to maybe edit it down to a smaller size, it says on here, this video cannot be edited because it is not, or because it is unsupported. So again, I think I may have found a software bug that it doesn't work with the older iPhone SE. But again, I don't think that's going to be a real issue because most people are using model year or new cell phones. Okay, so the next series of tests I did was a heat test. And just to give you the operating temperature specification, the manufacturer lists the specification as 14 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I did is I just wanted to do a baseline test in my garage in a controlled environment. And what you can see is I started the test at 4 p.m. and ran it to 9 p.m. And at the beginning of the test, the ambient temperature in my garage was 88 degrees, and then it rose up to 92 degrees and then fell back down to 83 degrees. So of course this is not going to simulate being parked in direct sunlight, but I wanted to do it anyways just to get a baseline on the temperatures. So you can see right here at 4 p.m. the front and rear cameras were measuring at 87 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm using one of these infrared pyrometers, and you just shoot it on there. It's got a little laser, and it will tell you the temperature. So that's how I was getting these temperatures. So you can see just after half an hour of operation, it jumped from 87, and now the front camera is 120 and the rear camera is 130. And you can go ahead and pause this to see those temperatures. So at these temperatures, in this ambient temperature of about 90 degrees in my garage, the front, it never got higher than 124, and the rear never got hotter than 132. And another thing to note, or another thing that I found out, is the rear camera runs hotter than the front camera. And after this test, I checked the files on the SD card, and no files were missing, and there was no loss of picture quality. So moving on to heat test number 2, I did this outside in direct sunlight, and I did this on September 26th, and the low for the day was 60, the high was 93, and I ran this test from 11:52 a.m. to 12:25 p.m. I just went into the store for about half an hour. And the ambient temperature outside was 88 degrees, but again, this is in direct sunlight. And when I came back after 33 minutes, the front camera was at 140 degrees and the rear camera is at 160 degrees. And keep in mind, the maximum manufacturer specification is 149. So it looks like the front camera has a margin of 9 degrees Fahrenheit more to go, and it looks like the rear camera has exceeded the manufacturer's operating temperature by 11 degrees. And I talked with MTZ from Romania about this, and he says it really shouldn't be a problem because the rear camera does not have an SD card in there that's writing to the SD card, so it really shouldn't be a problem. And I redid this test 2 days later on September 28th, and a similar situation. The low was 60, the high was 99. This time I started it at 10 in the morning, and it ran for 35 minutes. Outside ambient temperature was 77, and when I came back, the front was at 133 degrees, and again the rear is at 160 degrees. And this is 7 degrees cooler because the front of my windshield, it had only partial direct sunlight. And again, when I got home, I checked the SD card for missing files, and they were all there. So far I'm pretty satisfied with how well this thing performs in a hot car in direct sunlight. And of course, as time goes on, I'll be stretching this out to much further or much longer times in direct sunlight. Okay, so another thing I wanted to mention is because I'm going to be running both of these units in my car, I'm going to be putting my main unit, or one of these main units, on my rear window. And the factory power cable is only 13 feet long, and it's about 2 feet too short. So what I did is I ordered up a longer USB power cable. This is it right here, and this thing is 20 feet long, so it should be plenty long enough for me. And I've hooked it up and I've tested everything, and it seems to be working perfectly fine. So if you need to get a longer power cable, you should have no problem getting one of these cheap ones from Amazon. I think I paid $8 for this. And another thing I've tested out is this right here is the factory Viofo cigar lighter USB power plug, and it's got two slots in here. So how I've been testing these cameras out is I've actually hooked up both cameras to both of these power slots, and I've been running the camera for 4 and 5 hours at a time. And this thing is putting out sufficient power to power these things up, and it's running reliably. And I thought it might be overworking this, but I don't think it is. Maybe you can see on here, it says the output specification is 3.1 amps, and according to my testing, these cameras consume about 1100 milliamps at 5 volts. So by hooking up both of these cameras to this and using them at the same time, I'm loading this up to about 2000 milliamps, and this thing is good for 3000 milliamps. So that lets me know that I have a 1000 milliamp headspace before overloading this. So that makes me feel pretty good. And after running this for about 4 or 5 hours, I pulled this out and checked the heat, and it wasn't putting out much heat at all. I put it in my hand and it was barely warm. So I think these little power units are pretty high quality. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.